Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about competition because I've talked about conflict before and it being a kind of stimulator for growth. But competition is the very organised, or can be a very organised kind of version of conflict that allows for much more kind of supported growth because you've got in competition usually to one extent or another when we're talking about competition within the workplace or within a place of learning or between friends or whatever else, it can prompt there tend to be some level of kind of rules and guidelines to one extent or another, and as a result it can be that organized conflict, that controlled and defined conflict that allows for growth in very specific directions or within very specific areas. So the way I want to address this, I want to go through the pros as I see them of kind of using competition as in various areas. And then I also want to go on to talk about the cons of it. But with the cons, with each bad thing about the system or each problem with it, not system, the concept of using competition as a tool for growth. I also want to just point out where those like limitations can be addressed, because I'm quite a solid believer in kind of conflict as a way to fuel growth and as a moving you out of your comfort zone into your stretch zone, but without making you panic. Is that's the place where we learn, and so as a result, like making that shift for people, but doing it in a very controlled way, it can really help, but also it can really harm. But all of the things that can harm can be kind of undermined and removed just with being kind of conscious and aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it. But anyway, let's get on to the pros first. So the good things are, if you're setting a competition between people, be it workmates, be it classmates, be it friends, be it your kids, whatever, then one of the things that can kind of really stand out is by setting the competition, it makes the whole situation that you're putting those people into more like a game. Yeah? And as I've said in other videos, games are a great way for us to kind of learn and for us to practice and for us to kind of pick up new skills and things, because the brain is relaxed but you're focused. And as a result, that can make the process more fun. If it's a game, if it's got rules, if it's got this, that, and the other, and you've got a thing that you're driving towards, it can make it doesn't just turn out to be a game, it can make it fun. Not always, but sometimes. But also then moving on, competition is an active thing. Yeah, you can't compete without putting in an effort, without undertaking a task of some sort. And so as a result, because it's an actively involving thing, people aren't going to be doing it on autopilot. Yeah, you're going to be wanting to actively promote, actively push whatever action it is that you need to do to win. And so as a result, the kind of active involvement plays into greater awareness of the situation. It can help train and develop new schemas, new kind of patterns of behavior to allow for, I don't know, a better result overall. As an example, when I was kind of managing and I had people on a till, you would set a competition between them to see who could sell the most of a thing, and whoever won got some kind of little reward. Yeah? In which case, if they wanted as long as it was a reward that they actually cared about, that they actually wanted, then, those people would suddenly, who were just autopiloting on a till, waiting, tapping in the money, asking for it, putting it away, saying thank you, wishing them a good day, send them on their way, next person, now you've got them to focus on a thing, to actively focus on a thing if they want to win a thing. In which case, now they're more present. They're trying to gain more from the customer in front of them by selling them more or whatever else. And as a result, they have to be engaged with that to get there. It allows for that development. The next thing is the people who are high performers or achievers, or people who get bored easily. To be it because the work is too easy for them, or because they are distracted by things, or because they're just really easily bored by a task. They can suddenly become motivated because they have if they're high achievers, they're like, well, I can win, right? If it's something that they want, they're like, well, I've got a better chance of winning than some of these other guys. I'll get in on this. In which case, then their already high performance or level of achievement, or their increase in boredom, can suddenly either kind of shift around so that they're achieving more, they're being more successful, they're trying harder, and their boredom decreases, so they're more engaged and they're more kind of pleasantly working along with stuff, instead of just kind of huffing and puffing and not really caring because they've already done it and they don't care anymore. Next thing is, especially when you're working with kind of teams of people or groups of people that can be split into teams, competition often kind of allows for a better sense of kind of cooperation and community, arguably. Like, maybe not community so much. That kind of depends on how many people you've got involved, I feel. But in regards to better cooperation, certainly, because if you want to win, then you have to work with the people that you're with, because otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. You not working with that person is lowering your chances of success. And especially in workplaces where cooperation is very important, or in education where you've got people that, if you're getting them to learn how to work together now, it's only ever going to be a benefit to them later on. Having that competition can really promote those things. The next thing, some people can really thrive under pressure. I know that when I was in school, certain areas of study or certain subjects I just didn't do well with. Maths was a really big example of this, where I didn't get kind of my capabilities with mental arithmetic were appalling all the way through school. If you sat me down in front of a computer, I could take the information, put it in, but learning kind of formulae from rote learning and stuff like that, or having to do it all in my head, didn't work, didn't compute, wasn't interested, didn't care, my brain didn't like it, wasn't a thing that I could do particularly well. I move into the world of work where I'm under pressure to develop my mental arithmetic, because I am dealing with money, because I am dealing with people, because I am having to do it all very quickly, and people are relying on me because I don't want to be punished for not doing well. That pressure on me made me learn faster. I learned how to touch type by playing Guild Wars, and not back then when Guild Wars, the original Guild Wars was first launched. Yeah, Skype was around and stuff like that, but for the most part, they weren't things that I would use at any rate. And as a result, I learned how to touch type because I needed to communicate with people that I was playing the game with on the fly, usually through the middle of combat. And so, as a result, that pressure to not let my team down, to not let my friends down, to win in the game, that prompted me to learn to touch type within probably about a couple of weeks. After I started playing and after I really needed to learn, I learned. So I'm personally one of these people that will thrive and develop under enough pressure, but when things are so open and so dull, I don't kind of learn. I need to put pressure on myself to continually learn and develop and push for things. Whilst I've dealt with a lot of people, especially certain managers that I've had in the past, who have been very relaxed and maybe not put much pressure on, and as a result, I've not really seen the benefit of having that pressure on me. I've not learned anything new as fast without putting the pressure on myself and finding ways to hold myself kind of accountable to to me and to a certain standard. But in an organised competition like the one we're talking about here, where you're putting those people that are working for you, or those people that are learning from you, or people who you're just interacting with, when you're putting them under pressure, then the people who thrive in that environment are going to do well. And then the last kind of positive point, which is a lot broader than any of these others, is that a lot of people would argue from one perspective or another that competition is very much a part of life. You're always going to be competing for resources. You're always going to be competing for kind of within one environment or another, be it the dating game, be it the world of work, be it you wanting to find something in the supermarket and someone else gets there just before you. Be it in extracurricular activities like sports that you take part in or whatever else, there is always going to be that level of competition in there somewhere. And so learning to kind of deal with it and operate well within a competitive environment, it's something that's useful. And that's not a thing that really, especially in the kind of participation medal kind of world that we live in, a lot of very direct, straightforward win-loss competition is getting forgotten in earlier education onwards, and as a result, people aren't learning to operate in those conditions, and that's where we're seeing kind of more. There are more cons to competition here that we're going to go through. But a lot of these are highlighted by people who just haven't learned to deal with the environment, and otherwise would, if they had learned how to deal with the environment, would see much more of a benefit from it. But anyway, let's move on to the cons. And as I said, with each one of these, I'm also going to tack on to the end just how you, as someone organising or overseeing or maybe not taking part in the competition so much, but someone that's involved in it, can maybe kind of bypass some of these difficulties and problems. So the first one is, in contrast to some of the stuff we were saying before, low performers, be they at work or in education or amongst your friends or whatever else, they may feel that there's no point in trying because they may feel that winning is impossible, that winning isn't a thing that they really are engaged with, because they can look around them, see those other people that they are competing against, and as a result they tend to reduce kind of their input, because they don't think they're going to win, they don't think they're going to get anywhere in the first place. And this in turn can kind of lead to them not trying next time, or the time after, or the time after. The way to tackle this is arguably to make it more based around effort rather than based around purely results. Seeing how someone goes through the process and their attention to the process instead of just the result that they get can possibly swap this round a little bit. But then that might also leave the high achievers who have got the best result feeling cheated. So this is more of an argument for, instead of just breaking this down so that you've either got a result or a part of kind of effort-based competition, maybe, again, as best you can, make it group work, so that then you've got that person has more of an inclination to try, because it's not just them. Yeah, they've got some support around them. They're not necessarily the lowest performer. They're not necessarily the highest performer either, but there's that area that they can now move within where they don't feel so inadequate that it's not worth trying. The next one is, again, where we said some people thrive under pressure. Some people are very sensitive, and losing can be traumatic and can cause them an awful lot of anxiety, which can be a pain in the ass to tackle at the best of times, and even worse when it's also clouded by potentially an awful lot of kind of heightened emotion from the whatever competition has taken place. but also, some people just do work worse under pressure. They might not feel anxiety, they might not freak out about it, but they just don't do as well. And so as a result, they're going to be sat there going, oh well, I don't do well in this environment. I'm going to try, but I just can't. Natural inclination towards being under pressure or not. How far outside of their comfort zone are you pushing them to learn or develop or grow or achieve? Some people can only take one step outside their comfort zone before they start feeling shaky, and those are the people that in competition aren't going to do very well. Some people need to take a lot more steps forward before they actually start feeling it. Everyone's comfort zone and stretch zones and panic areas are different shapes and sizes. So, there's a lot of kind of up and down around this. And the way, again, I feel to tackle these individuals would be, to an extent, group work and group competition, because it allows them the support of others around them, lowers the amount of anxiety that they have, and if it's a loss, then they're going to potentially mirror the behaviors of the other people around them who are able to take loss as just an acceptable thing. Oh well, we didn't win this time, we'll do better next time. And as a result, the more that they mirror that, the more they'll internalize it, the more they'll pick it up, the more they'll start doing it themselves. The next problem, which is again kind of to do with effort and things like that, is that some people will then only put effort in if there's a reward. If everything is a competition, then they will potentially only work for a reward. We've all seen the kids in supermarkets who throw temper tantrums, who will only behave if they get what they want, who will only behave and jump through the hoops that mum and dad put in front of them if they get a sweetie. Yeah? Same with animals, even. It's a thing that is kind of prevalent across creatures almost. And it's called extrinsic motivation, where they need something outside of themselves kind of coming in and rewarding them to actually get them motivated and putting effort in and on task, as opposed to kind of just doing something for the sake that it needs to be done, which is intrinsic motivation. There's something innate to the task or to the person that gets them to do the thing. And competition can really encourage the former, the extrinsic, over the intrinsic, and as a result, this is where having competition for things to really promote growth in certain areas can be great, but obviously there also needs to be the walk down. There needs to be the removal from competition so that analysis can happen, because if you don't get much in the way of introspection and kind of analysis and kind of development of awareness of self in competition, because you're always competing, you're always attacking the other person or running alongside them and trying to beat them, and as a result you're focused on them, not yourself, or you're focused on the reward and not yourself. And so there has to be time taken for analyzing the growth. Any sports person will tell you that the rest and relaxation for recovery and working through their next steps of their strategy to achieve their goals are just as, if not more important than actually the running or the taking part in the sport or the whatever it is that they're actually doing. And then moving on, we've got the next thing, which is kind of jealousy and division can spring up from competition. Be it between groups or be it amongst individuals taking part. You've got kind of a big potential problem if groups are always the same, or if the same person is always winning because the tasks are always the same. Then jealousy, division, upset, one group deciding that they don't like another group because they've lost to them so many times, they become the enemy instead of another part of the team. Simple way to tackle this and other things around it are change up the kinds of competitions, change up the rewards, change up the tasks, change up the teams, and have a good balance in the competitions that you're running between group-based and individual-based. Because as much as cooperation can really be developed, you also need to learn how to kind of work by yourself, and you need to learn how to both cooperate and not compete with each other, as well as cooperating whilst competing. So, varying out some of these things, can really help overall. But also, cooperation is the thing to take away from it. And, cooperation can happen without competition. And in fact, it works much better when it's without competition, as sometimes weak links can be identified through cooperation during a competition, and then that lowers the effectiveness of everything. And it can break things down. And then obviously in breaking things down, it can lead to things like low self-esteem, no sense of security, and breaking stuff kind of in that regard, which then, it stresses people out. No, maybe not to the extent of anxiety, not to the extent of creating anxiety and stuff like that, but just making people, let's say that they've lost 4 times in a row, yeah? They may not necessarily be anxious about it, they might keep trying, but they're still not going to feel great. And that's going to cause them a little bit of stress, which just makes their mind work maybe not as well as it could do, which means that they're less likely to fail, less likely to succeed next time. And so it kind of becomes this self-fulfilling loop of trying and never succeeding, which sucks. And so, the thing that stands out about competition after looking at all of these negatives is that it needs to be a part of a tool set, not the entirety of it. And the cooperation needs to be fostered and developed in and of itself as a big thing outside of competition, because then cooperation will lead into competition and allow for teams to achieve more, or for people to achieve more, than not. And that's kind of where I want to leave this. We've gone through the pros, we've gone through the cons, and now we've got the kind of some of the solutions to those things. But obviously, it's not ever going to be perfect if you're only taking this in a vacuum. There is so much more to it, both in terms of kind of self-awareness and introspection, and cooperation with other people outside of competitive environments, learning to work by yourself, learning to enjoy your own company, being able to adapt to pressurized situations, or learn that when you're not under pressure, there are other ways to tackle situations that can still get you the same results, how to put yourself under pressure if you need to. There's a lot more around that. I might cover in other videos, but this is the breakdown that I wanted to touch on today. And I'd love to know what you guys think. How many of you have taken part in competitions where you've seen some of the pros, some of these cons? How many of you are teachers or employers or sports organisers, whoever, who are organising these competitions and making it work? Maybe I'll do another video actually specifically in regards to competition in kind of the dating sphere, because a lot of these things apply, but they apply in kind of slightly modified and twisted ways. But otherwise, guys, I'd love to hear what you guys have got to say in the comments, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. Then I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.